Hello, I'm the English chef, John Murphy, and as some people might say, that's a bit of an oxymoron, English chef, but I'm going to try and prove them wrong. Anyway, like most people, I enjoy to cook. I don't like it to be too complicated. I like to keep it as simple as I can, but still turn out something that I think is presentable, tasty, and has a little bit of a wow factor to it. How do you achieve that? Well, number one, you've got to try things. You've got to not be scared to try things. Cooking's an adventure. It's all about taking chances, learning as you go, and hoping for the best. Usually it comes out, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you fail, it doesn't work, you learn. That's cooking. People that aren't good cooks have never tried. They've never experimented. They've never taken chances. That's the only difference between a good cook and someone who can't cook, is the good cook has messed things up before. Anyway, I learned to cook as a boy. I was 10 years old when I did my first meal. I got it right out of a cookbook. The reason being, my mother couldn't cook and I had to learn very quickly. It was pure survival. She, God bless her, I love her, but awful cook in the kitchen. She didn't cook, she burnt things. That was all she did. She just couldn't do it. Disinterested, wasn't important to her. I don't know why. Never got taught by her mother. I don't know. Couldn't cook. Anyway, I learned at an early age to cook and realised that with the success I had on my first meal, it prompted me to keep going. I've been cooking ever since. It's one of my favourite pastimes, something I love to do, and you'll love to do it too once you get going, once you feel a little confidence, and you'll find great joy in cooking for yourself, but more importantly, you'll find it doing it for other people. It's a great way to show people you care. It's a great way to enjoy being sociable with a group of people. Like the Italians, they always talk about the family getting together over meals. They probably eat too much, but that's what they do. They enjoy it. There's no reason we can't enjoy it too. There's nothing to be scared of about going into the kitchen and cooking up something spectacular that you probably think you can't do. You can do it. So today I'm going to teach you a couple of simple basic dishes that I'm going to teach you the thing I cooked first of all when I was 10 years old, which set me off on the course of cooking for the rest of my life. And I'm going to do an appetizer, which again is simple but has a certain wow factor to it. I'm going to give you two versions of both dishes, a simple version and a more involved, more expensive version, if you like. More for a dinner party, a dinner party version and a Tuesday night version. If it's just you and the wife, you just want a Tuesday night version, because some of them can be a lot of work, a lot of money, a lot of effort, and we haven't all got the time for that every day of the week. So two versions of the same meal, but different difficulty levels and different economic levels, different cost. One not so expensive, one a little bit more, but more involved. We're going to do baked oysters. Baked oysters, very simple. Use select oysters that you buy in the supermarket. They come in a plastic tub, and what they are is they're big, plump, juicy oysters, perfect for baking. If you use fresh oysters, which you by all means do, and in actual fact, to start with, you probably have to, because you need the shells. What I do is I scrub the shells out, run them through the dishwasher. I keep them then for my baked oysters. The select oysters are plump, like I say, as opposed to the fresh oysters. Generally, not always, they can be a little small to bake with. So you buy the selects, you've always got nice, big, plump, juicy oysters that are more appropriate for baking, for cooking. If you're going to eat raw oysters, just obviously you use fresh oysters. For both apps, you start off with the shells, the empty, clean shells. Put your oysters in the shell, Now the simple version is simply broiled with garlic butter. Garlic butter meaning melted butter with plenty of garlic so that you can really taste it. It's a strong, strong flavour of garlic. Broil your oysters 5 minutes tops, 4 or 5 minutes. Spoon on some garlic butter. Let that get hot and then finish off with a little store-bought Parmesan. Now the store-bought Parmesan, I know you're all cringing. It's not that bad for something like this. It'll give a little cheesy flavour. Again, I agree it's not that great, but it's cheap, it's not expensive, and it'll give a little flavour to your oysters, to your garlic broiled oysters. Now the version I prefer to do, which I'll do if I've got people coming over, because I want to give them a bit of a wow factor, something they're going to remember, something they're going to talk about Monday morning. If Saturday night I have them over, they're going to talk about it Monday morning. And what I do there is I take the same oyster shells, I put the same oyster in it, but this time I do a little sautéed spinach, just blanched very, very lightly, top my oyster with the spinach, and then some lump crab. Now, lump crab, expensive, definitely, I know. But you don't have to put too much. Just put a little spoon of lump crab on top of your spinach. And then the hollandaise. Now, hollandaise, you got two types. You got store-bought, you got real hollandaise. For this, you got to teach yourself to do the real hollandaise. If you're going to spend the money on crab, you don't want to ruin it with a store-bought hollandaise. This is where you go to the extra trouble. Impress your friends. It's a real hollandaise. Most of them probably never had a real hollandaise. Even the restaurants don't make it much these days. They put a bit of cheese on top and that's it. And they call it oysters Rockefeller or whatever, but it's not real. It's not a real Rockefeller. To do a real Rockefeller, this is a Rockefeller but with crab meat. So go to the trouble. All it is egg yolks basically, and you'll find that it keeps the level of the dish up at chef level. It's medium difficulty, a little bit hard because of the hollandaise. You might mess it up the first couple of times, but just practice a little, you'll get it. It's not that hard. Double boiler, egg yolks. It's not that hard, and it's worth it. It's what you should do if you're working with ingredients like crab meat. The simple version is nice. The real oysters Rockefeller with crab is way, way, way better. So top it off with a little hollandaise. Once they're broiled for about 5 minutes in the oven, the oyster will be at the very least warmed through, if not cooked through, and then top it with hollandaise, light brown. You just want to get a little light brown tan on the hollandaise, and then they're ready to go. This is an appetizer, everyone will love it, even people that don't like oysters. They'll at least eat the crab and the spinach and the hollandaise. And they'll probably eat the oyster, especially if it's cooked through. So like I say, very nice appetizer, medium difficulty, but your friends will never forget you can cook, and they'll talk about it when they go to work Monday. They'll be saying, wow, you should have had what I had for dinner on Saturday. The entree we're going to do is the one I did when I was 10, when I realised that I better learn to cook for survival's sake. It's a simple classic French, simple fish dish. It's mashed potatoes. The French way of serving it is to pipe it around the plate using a piping bag. If you've got a piping bag, use it. If you haven't, I'll show you how to make a get-by piping bag. But pipe your mashed potatoes round in a circle, toast them under the broiler. You want to get the plate nice and hot and brown off the potatoes, just a little browning. Always, always, always use a hot plate to serve your food. You don't want it going on a cold plate. Hot food, cold plate equals cold entree, and it ruins the meal. You want your food hot, just like the restaurants, they always heat the plates up. Put your mashed potatoes, like I say, around the edge of the plate. It can be either side or in a circle, however you want to do it. Fish goes in the middle, just a piece of cod, any fish, white fish especially, All white fish need a sauce on it. There's no real strong white fish that stands alone. Most seafood, most fish, most shellfish, they need the sauce. Even boiled shrimp, you don't eat them on their own. You have cocktail sauce. A piece of trout, usually a little lemon and garlic. But most fish need something. Salmon is one of the few fish can stand on its own. It's stronger, got more texture, more flavour than most fish. So you can do a piece of salmon and not really put much on it. Maybe a little melted butter, something just to moisten it a little bit. But most seafood dishes, it's about the sauce. Whether it's scallops, you could eat a scallop and you wouldn't know you were eating anything. It's like eating a marshmallow almost. There's just no flavour to it. But the flavour comes with the sauce. It's all about the sauce with seafood. So broil your fish 6-8 minutes, 10 if it's a really thick piece. Bake your fish, put it in the middle of the plate, and then it's the sauce. That's what makes the meal. As I say, the sauce is the main thing in a seafood dish, in my opinion. Simple sauce, really. Not that hard to do. It's a tomato-based white wine sauce. If you've got fish stock, you want a little fish stock, some tomato juice, a little bit of white wine. Add in your tomatoes, bell peppers, onions. That's the basics. You can also add other stuff if you want. I like olives, so I'll add green olives, black olives, capers, whatever I got really. I'll just look around, see if I got something that I think would work. Be adventurous. Don't be scared to be adventurous. You don't have to follow recipes all the time. I know it's a good guide to follow a recipe, but look at other recipes and pick some stuff that from one recipe and put it into another recipe. Like I say, good cooks, good chefs, they don't really just follow recipes. They create recipes. Always the difference between an average cook and a good cook is the good cook creates stuff, comes up with new seasonings that nobody's tried before, puts in ingredients that nobody's added before, and they say, well, this is my take on it. You make it your own, as it were. So start off with your onions, peppers, tomatoes, add a little tomato juice or tomato puree, whatever you got. Little white wine will bring out the flavours, the natural flavours. Don't overdo it. You don't want it to taste of wine. You just want a little bit in there, subtly bringing out the flavour of the ingredients. Then you want to thicken it, and thickening it is about roux, what the French call a roux. When I was 10 and I did this for the first time, I thought they were crazy. I thought it was a complete misprint, that flour and butter in a pan didn't make any sense to me. It just was stupid, and I couldn't believe I was doing it. But I did. I put 2 spoons of flour, 2 spoons of butter in a little pot, stirred it up, watched it go a little darker, kept stirring it like it said. Suddenly it said, add this to my sauce. I thought, this is going to be ridiculous. Why would I do that? But of course, the magic of the roux is it thickens. I put my roux in, my sauce was hot. You always want to put the roux into a hot sauce, not a cold sauce. As it dissolved, suddenly, magically, I had what looked like a sauce. And I couldn't believe it. Now, for me, it was I felt like I just won a medal. It was incredible, because I looked at what was a pan of hot ingredients suddenly merge into a magical sauce that now looked like somebody knew what they were doing in the kitchen. It's probably why I still cook, is the success of that roux. Just the realising that I didn't just pour this over the fish, that the roux made all the difference. I got the texture, consistency of the sauce right. Add your roux, don't over add it, don't add too much, because you'll then be chasing it. You'll be thinning it and then re-thickening, and that's how a sauce can get away from you very easily. Always remember, you can always add anything, but you can't take it out necessarily. It's much harder to take salt out of a dish than it is to add it. Much harder to re-thicken the sauce than it is to get it right the first time. So just add a little bit, see how it goes. If you need more, add a little more. Now this is the sauce then you pour over the dish. Quite a nice classic French seafood meal. Not a lot of trouble, not hard, medium difficulty I would say, and not expensive. Most of us have got tomatoes and onions and peppers in our storeroom, in our stockroom. What did you call a larder? Pantry? Pantry. In our pantry. So these are things that are probably on hand anyway, so you don't have to go to great expense. And play with the sauce a little. Add something to it if you feel like doing it. If you want to add dill, try some dill in it. Try different things. Be creative. Don't be scared. If you mess it up, you mess it up. But if you're careful, you'll still be able to serve it. You won't get it so far away that you can't eat it or use it. Like I say, it's all about an adventure. It's an adventure. It should be fun and it should be experimental. Don't be scared to experiment. Don't be scared to fail, because you'll suddenly come up with something that nobody's done before, and they'll be saying, "What is that? What do you put in it that nobody else does?" And you'll know what it is. So again, that's how you enjoy it. That's how I enjoy to cook. Is say, what can I do to this to make it different? It might not make it better, but it will make it different. It will make it mine. If it doesn't make it better, then I probably won't do it again. But if it does make it better, then I'll always be doing it. It's something I know for next time. And it's something I can use again on another dish that is completely different. I'll say, well, I used that before and it worked. So I'll try it again with this. And again, it might work, it might not, but it's not the end of the world. Don't put too much in, put it in a little bit, be careful and experiment, and you'll enjoy it anyway. Now that's the more difficult version of the dish. That's the one I cooked when I was 10. Now if I can do it at 10, I'm pretty sure you can do it at your age. The easy version, and you're going to laugh at me when I tell you this one, this is the Tuesday night version, I'd call it. This is the version you do, you come home from work, you're tired, you've got a piece of cod in the fridge that you need to eat. It's been in there since Saturday, you know it's time to go, it's got to go. You're either eating it or throwing it out. So now, take your fish, broil it, make some mashed potatoes. Now you don't have to pipe it for you and your wife. Big glob of mashed potato in the middle of the plate. Make your mashed potatoes how you like. Some people put cheese in it. Some people just put butter and milk. So just make your mashed potatoes. Always I at least put some milk and butter in it. Salt and pepper. And that's how I like my mashed potatoes. If I want to do it fancy, I might put some blue cheese in it, because that for me that's my taste. But then you want to have something fairly bland with that, because that's a pretty powerful tasting mashed potato. But make yourself your mashed potatoes the way you like making them. Like I say, for me it's some butter and milk and salt and pepper. Mashed potatoes in the middle of the plate, broiled fish straight on top. Now the sauce, that's what seafood is all about. It's the sauce. What I like for a quick sauce, tomato based sauce, is salsa, a jar of salsa, just whatever salsa you use. Take it, put it in a cup, put a dash of wine, big blob of butter, stick it in the microwave, melt it, melt the butter, get the salsa hot, take it out, taste it first. Now you might want to put some Tabasco in it, or you might say it's too spicy as it is. So what do? You add some V8 or tomato juice, whatever you got. You might have to add a little bit of wine. You might just thin it out a little. Use a little fish stock, whatever you got. I mean, if you got chicken, if you got no fish, use a bit of chicken stock to thin it out. Vegetables, you got to have some stock in the kitchen. Cans, fine. Use a can of stock. Nobody makes real stock at home. It's just too much trouble. But use a little stock. Use a little water if you have to. Whatever. Thin it out to your taste. Get it to your taste, and now put it on top of your fish. You've got an immediate tasty seafood dish with a sauce. Did it take long to make? It took probably 5 minutes to make that sauce. Now don't laugh, but I do it all the time, and it works. It's a nice simple sauce. Now you know it's salsa, you know it's nothing special, but you know what? It turns that every ordinary piece of fish into something really tasty and good. And that's what cooking's all about, is keeping it simple and making it tasty. That's what a good cook does. If you want to impress your dinner guests, then you do the whole shebang. You use the fish stock, you use the white wine, you use all fresh ingredients. You go to the trouble and expense, but you give them a big wow factor because you're entertaining. Don't forget, when you're having a dinner party, they're not there because they're hungry, they're there to be entertained. Part of the entertainment is how good the food is and how memorable it is. So you go to a bit more trouble on that in that situation. The key is to be able to do it, that's all, and that's what we're going to learn in this series of shows, is how to be able to cook with a wow factor like a chef would. I'm not a chef, I dare say you're probably not a chef, but we can cook like one. And all it takes is a little bit of effort, a little bit of money too, because a lot of stuff's expensive. A lot of the stuff we'll use for a wow factor like crab meat is expensive, but it's worth it because it's entertaining your guests, and that's what you're doing. You're not feeding them because you're hungry, you're entertaining. So let's go to the appetizer. A baked oyster is... did I do the oysters already? I did, okay.
No, wait, I think you did the fish.
I did the fish, yeah, I didn't do the oyster.
You're at 21 minutes now, so...
Am I?
You may have covered both of them already.
I think I did, I can't remember. I'm forgetting it. But anyway, and of course, have some wine with the meal. Don't be scared of wine either. We're going to learn about wine. I'm no wine expert, I'm no sommelier, although I got a friend who is one, and he's going to help us. You don't have to drink white wine with fish and red wine with meat. You can drink whatever you like. If you have a beer if you want it, but we're going to talk about wine during this series, and the key is drink a wine that you like. I like a glass of wine while I'm cooking, as you'll notice as the episodes go by, because that's when I enjoy it even more than sitting down eating. I enjoy cooking with a glass of wine, and it just makes it a more enjoyable experience. Let's see. Now, to recap, there's in any dish there's a quick way, an easy way, a cheap way, and there's also a more elaborate, expensive, time-consuming way, and that's anything really. You'll find that there's shortcuts, and this is going to be about shortcuts, the short methods and the longer, more traditional method. I want you to learn how to cook quickly, but also how to do it the original, traditional, slow cook, long prep method. It's good to know both, because then you can make up your own shortcuts as well. So we'll learn together about wine. We're going to learn together how to cook like a chef, and that's it really. And once you get this first dish under your belt, you're going to feel very confident about cooking for more involved, more difficult dishes. But we're going to go one step at a time. We're going to walk before we run. Okay, we'll see you next week.